Dude, they're gonna be mad.
No, they're not.
They're gonna be mad.
No, man.
I'm telling you.
Why?
It's an upsetting week.
It's not bad.
You don't think it is? Well, it started out with Xbox raising the price of all of their consoles, and then on top of that, setting a precedent that their games are now going to be $80, just like Nintendo did a couple weeks ago.
Okay, well,
it's
not that bad.
You still don't think they're going to be mad?
No, dude.
You really...
Why would they be that
You don't know
mad?
what's coming next, do you?
What?
You didn't hear. They delayed GTA 6, and not just a little bit.
Oh.
And
okay.
Yeah, see, you're starting to get it, but there's still more. There was cheating in chess.
Again? Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
Was there beads again?
No, there were no beads involved.
Sure.
We are going to get into all of that and more because this is the show that comes out every single Sunday. Welcome to the Weekly Reload. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Weekly Reload, the show where we dive into all of your favorite video games and all of the news that is going on with them, all put together into one big show. Now, this week, it hasn't been about video games. It's been all about who would win in a fight, 100 men or one gorilla. And let me tell you, first things first, gorillas, they are huge. Also, they are used to living in the wild. If you take 100 men, they are used to being pampered. They are used to living in houses. They are not prepared for what a gorilla is going to bring to the table. However, a gorilla is much, much stupider. Yeah, they can use tools, but in this debate, are we considering, can men use tools? Can they use rocks that they find on the ground? Because the big part of this debate is no, they're not allowed to use weapons. No, they're not allowed to use knife. No, they're not allowed to use guns. But rocks, are they allowed to use rocks? No one is talking about the rocks. Not to mention, is it a one fight after the other? Can the 100 men swarm them? Because if they could swarm them, I feel like that isn't even fair. Take 100 people off of an NFL football team. That is very, very different than 100 men from an accounting firm in uptown New York. It is a much more intricate conversation that needs to be had on this, and yet everyone is talking about one thing and one thing alone, and that is GTA 6 being delayed. No, you did not hear me wrong, and it's not just a little bit. And if you didn't hear already, because everyone's been talking about it, it has been moved, and the launch date is now May 26, 2026. This statement comes directly from Rockstar, and essentially they say that they are committed to giving us the best possible experience when this game is launching, that they are building something innovative, groundbreaking, and we all knew that already. It's taken 12 years to put together, and if we're being honest, it hasn't been a direct 12 years. In that time period, they also put out Red Dead Redemption 2, and then of course they've been slowly working on the game as we know it of GTA 6. So yes, you are going to have to wait essentially until next summer, and we know what everyone will be doing with that summer. But the thing is this announcement didn't come at a cost. Take-Two, the CEO, came forward and said, we support Rockstar fully and we want them putting out the best product possible, but this didn't stop their stock from taking a huge dive of just under 7% in one day. So obviously a bad day for the shareholders there. And that wasn't it. There was also Xbox. This was earlier on in the week, but Xbox announced that all of their consoles were getting between an $80 and $100 price hike in the US, and seemingly in the US only, which is the opposite of what PlayStation just did, which is super weird. So some are blaming the tariffs, others are saying that is not the case, it's just a matter of inflation. And speaking of inflation, the other thing that they did is announce that their first party titles, so the Xbox titles under their banner, their price is going to be raised up to $80. Now this is the same announcement that we recently just saw from Nintendo with the announcement of Mario Kart being that price, and sometimes they were said even $90 depending on what you were getting. So this is the industry following suit. But the weird thing is 3 of the games that have come out this year that were incredibly big, including Expedition 33 that just came out, as well as Split Fiction, these games were $50 at launch, and they're some of the biggest selling games that have come out. So yeah, the industry might be going that way, but the consumers might be going a complete other way. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. The other thing about this is, with the price of the Xbox games raising, Call of Duty would fall under that banner, being $80. Now, I think there's more of a reason for this and for Xbox doing it than you may realize. Say, for example, they put out the next Call of Duty game, Black Ops 7, on all consoles, and it's $80 everywhere. Or you could get Game Pass and get it for free. all of a sudden it seems more incentivized to buy Game Pass. And as we know, that is all Xbox is cared about. They don't care about their hardware sales. They don't even really care about their game sales. They're pulling the full Netflix model and going for pure subscription. And this statement actually came true recently. So if you look at this quarter's investor call for Xbox and for Microsoft for their gaming division, their gaming revenue grew 5%, which is great for them because we've seen it drop before. Xbox content and service revenue grew 8%, driven by Xbox Game Pass, Call of Duty, and specifically Minecraft because of the movie. And finally, Xbox hardware revenue declined by 6%. So a drop in the revenue from hardware, but increase revenue overall. And this is what they've been aiming for a very long time. And this falls in line with the price raise of games. So then there's the whole chess thing. If you didn't hear, DrLupo, a big time streamer, someone who's raised millions of dollars for charity, was in a chess tournament and he cheated. And I know what you're all wondering, did he use the booty beads? Turns out, no, he did not, because it was an online tournament. I mean, I guess technically he might have been using the booty beads, but he didn't use them to cheat. The entire time he was actually using some online chess engine, and he actually put out a quite lengthy response apologizing for this, but taking full accountability, being like, yeah, I panicked, I wasn't good at chess, I didn't like not being good at chess, and I cheated. And a lot of people are really mad about this and ask more questions of, did he cheat in any other games? How deep does this go? And yeah, needless to say, people are pretty mad about it. But the important part, no booty beads. The other thing that I found absolutely wild this week was extraction shooters. So extraction shooters have been around for a while, but the one that came out a couple weeks ago was Marathon. It had a closed alpha. And needless to say, it seems as though a lot of people were really bored by this game. It peaked at around 6,900 players on Steam, which really doesn't mean anything because it's closed alpha, so we don't know how many people actually had access to it. But what we did see is the people who did have access. So after the first day, the player base dropped by half, and then by half again, and then by a quarter, and players were not coming back to play on the following weekend. In other words, after people played it, they're just like, yeah, this isn't for me. And we actually saw this on Twitch as well. When the game first came out, it peaked at 34,000 viewers, and by the end of the alpha, it was sitting around 1,000, which is abysmal for a closed alpha because people can't play it. You'd think they would be watching it. But that might be because of the other game that went into a playtest session this week, and that is Arc Raiders. Now, I played this one, streamed it, put it on Ink TV, and the response to this game was the complete opposite. People dove right into this game and wanted to see more. Their out-of-game economy was better. The one downside is it's not a first-person shooter, it is a third-person shooter, which some people do not enjoy, but out-of-game economy is better. The aesthetics seem to hit home with more people, and on top of that, the gameplay loop was just way more suspenseful. On top of that, you didn't have to play with a group of 3. You could spawn in as a solo playing against other solos without any hitches whatsoever. These two are both set to come out this year and compete head to head. And because of this, there were other studios that just solely gave up. And if you don't know what I mean by that, we are talking about Respawn Entertainment. Respawn, the people behind Apex Legends and Titanfall, were actually working on their own extraction shooter in the Titanfall universe. And this week, they announced they are scrapping it altogether. I truly believe what happened here is they saw the response to what happened with Marathon and were like, whoa, we are just gonna cut our losses here because we don't want that response. But at the same time, with Arc Raiders doing well, I just don't know whether there's too many extraction shooters at this point, or whether it's just Marathon people didn't resonate with. And my question is how Arc Raiders will do in the long run. This extraction shooter economy has been absolutely wild, and who knows when it's gonna let up, because right around the corner, we have DMZ 2 potentially based off of League. Speaking of which, we should probably dive into what happened with Call of Duty this week. Slick, I'm sorry, you're not gonna like me for this one, but we're rapid firing through this week's big update.
It's time to play the game. Time to play the game.
So this week we got Season 3 Reloaded, and essentially everything we got here was based around 420, which was odd because 420's already happened and the update was late. So we have the High Alert event that is currently going on and the Blaze of Glory coming next week, both of which have to do with 420. One is an XP event and one is pick up stuff off the ground. As far as Warzone goes, we have the new area of train station in Verdansk, as well as the moving train that goes around the map, and they did add vertical ascenders. Now, when this update was implemented, people seemed to really enjoy it, and in fact, they did put a ton of Easter eggs into the map, which I did cover over on Ink Slasher. The downside is it seems that the performance took a dive, with servers not feeling right, people having to armor extra plates, put them on. Instead of having to put on 3 plates, you have to put on 4 before it actually fills up. It's just a visual bug. So definitely some problems that people had there. There were definitely more quality of life fixes and balancing, but we're not going to dive too far into that. Now, there was one new SMG called the Ladra that was added in. And on the multiplayer side of things, we essentially got 2 new maps, which one of them was the Rusalka from Call of Duty Black Ops 1, and the other taking place in a new KGB headquarters. And finally, we have another game mode in multiplayer, which again is based around 420. The general sentiment of this season is people were simply sick of seeing so much weed and 420 references brought into the game. And I don't even think it's necessarily has something to do with that. I think it's more so people are just sick of how unrealistic COD has become, and they are flocking to some other things, like another thing that happened this week, Battlefield. We got more Battlefield leaks. So Battlefield, if you don't know, there's currently closed playtests going on that are under NDA, but every single week they get leaked. Last week, we probably had the biggest leak yet. This one showed off a new map, a new create a class system, as well as, I think, the best gameplay we've seen so far. We saw helicopters crashing to the ground. We saw our first jet fighter gameplay, as well as the new map called Capstone, which is kind of in this basin, and I believe Tajikistan. You were in a bunch of mountains. You saw some more destruction. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the create a class system. So basically, they took the gunsmith system from the new Modern Warfare and combined it with the old Call of Duty Pick 10 system. So in other words, you could put as many attachments on your weapon as possible, as long as the weight of the weapon was under 100. So instead of 10, it's 100. So a certain magazine, a smaller magazine, might cost 5 weight or 5 pounds, whereas a really large magazine may cost 40 weight or 40 pounds. You fill up your weapon with 100 points, and by then you can't put any more on. It's very similar to the Pick 10 system, but this time on weapons and specifically done with weight. So because the realisticness of Battlefield, people have been really flocking and really resonating with those and just getting more and more mad at Call of Duty. Now, moving to a game that is certainly not realistic, we have Borderlands 4.
What use is a vault hunter? What use is a killer?
The first thing that happened with Borderlands 4 is its release date got moved up to September the 12th. Now, because of this, everyone's like, this means GTA 6 is coming out early. It didn't. It's not what that meant. It's not what that meant whatsoever. And a lot of people may have got that one wrong. You may be playing GTA 6 way sooner than you think. But then, of course, with Borderlands 4, we also got the reveal, the state of play that PlayStation put out with it as well. And the overwhelming response for this one is people were really positive. And I was worried about it because this is essentially, they took Borderlands 3 and cranked it up to 11. The movement is faster, the gunplay is faster. It's what you see is what you get. And I think why this resonated is because it's been a while since we got a Borderlands game, and Borderlands fans wanted another Borderlands game, specifically a looter shooter, and that is exactly what you're gonna get here. Doesn't seem like there's really anything that revolutionary, but just more Borderlands for Borderlands fans, and people seem to be happy about that. Now, where we talked about the downsides of Xbox, there is also some good sides to Xbox as well. And the thing that happened recently is, one, Expedition 33 came out, but also the same week, we had Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion come out, and in 3 days, there were 4 million people playing that remaster, which is insane numbers. So clearly, because of this, it is a massive success. And the current rumors based off of FTC leaks is that we're also going to be getting a Fallout 3 remastered, and that one is also going to be really successful. So I think what's going to happen here is Xbox is going to see this success and want to amplify on it with the other IPs that they own. And this is where we put on our tinfoil hat this week, because I truly believe that this is going to carry over not just in Bethesda games, but also Call of Duty. And what I mean by that is there has been rumors going around that all of the old Call of Duty games were going to be coming to Game Pass. But after the success of Oblivion, what if they kind of go a different direction? And instead of doing that, they remaster the old games, resell them to people not on Game Pass, and put them for free on Game Pass, with of course microtransactions and support if they drip feed these content with maybe one every 1 or 2 year and offset it with the release of their full launch Call of Duty game. So every 6 months you're essentially getting a Call of Duty game, one new one remaster. This could go absolute gangbusters, because this week we saw how successful these type of remastered games can truly be. I'm very curious to see what they do moving forward with these remasters, but needless to say, I think this is the most evidence that we could get for there being more Call of Duty remasters. And while we're talking about Game Pass, really the next big game that is coming out is going to be Doom: The Dark Ages, and this one is coming on May 15th. Day one Game Pass, and really after that, May is kind of this dead month. I'm sure we'll be getting lots of news still, and that is why you should hit the subscribe button and make sure you're following, because I think things are going to happen really fast throughout the month, because on June 6th through June 8th, that is when we have Summer Game Fest, and that is when news will start to be dumped all over the place non-stop throughout the summer and going in to the end of the year. Because guess what? With GTA 6 being delayed, that means game studios are all going to want to get their games out in Q4 this year before GTA 6 launches, which means the end of this year is probably going to be the busiest gaming season you guys have ever seen. So that is why you need to make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. As always, thank you guys for supporting the show. Thank you guys for being here. And of course, we will be here next Sunday.